Hey everyone, it's Dr. Fromm. I'm coming to you live to go over the part writing and harmonization questions from last week's AP exam. Tonight, I'm just going over FRQs 5, 6, and 7, showing you my step-by-step process. And I have the exam questions up here. We'll do them together. Let me know if you want me to do a live stream for the harmonic and melodic dictation questions, and maybe I'll do that next week. So, if anybody took the exam, let me know in the comments which part you thought was the hardest. Was it one of these three? Was it the harmonic dictation? Was it the sight singing or the multiple choice questions? I know the multiple choice questions get people a lot. By the way, the College Board releases the FRQs, but it does not release the multiple choice questions. So I don't have access to those, so I'm not going to be able to go over those. But we can do the FRQs together. Okay, so yeah, and if anybody is watching this on the replay or if you're just getting in, if you're taking the makeup exam on Thursday, stick around and ask me questions afterwards. I'll answer any questions you have for the exam. Okay, so let's get started. So this is FRQ5, you can see here on my screen. And I'll start by doing the Roman numerals. So let's start there. And if you want to tell me in the chat what you think the Roman numerals are, you can go ahead and do that. I'll start with the easiest one. We're in G minor, by the way. So that's a G. That's a 1 chord. And the last one, also a 1 chord. All right, so let's do the rest of these. This one is, of course, root position 5 chord. The sharp only means that the leading tone is raised. That's all it means. Scale degree 3 with the 6 in the bass. That's a 1 chord. Scale degree 4 with scale degree 4 with 6 underneath it. That's a 2 chord. And then this big scary thing, that is a cadential 164, going to a 5/7 chord. So remember, this is a big scary thing, but these lines are actually telling you exactly what to do. So don't freak out. That's actually one of our easiest things that we get to do here. Okay, so those are our Roman numerals. And do you notice any of the 6 most important chord progressions that I told you in my video? Are any of them on here? So that big scary thing is one of them. That is, of course, the cadential 164 going to 5. And most of the time, to a 5/7. Most of the time, we're going to go to a 1 chord after that. And that's what this does. Okay, so let's just do this chord by chord. We have 1 to 5, and we're going to keep the common tone in the tenor. Okay, so we're going to a D chord, D, F sharp, and A, right? So we're going to put D in the tenor since there was a D already. And then we need a B flat and an A. And the best way to do this is, it's called lower neighbor motion. The soprano steps from B flat to A, and the alto steps from G to F sharp. All right, and next up we go to the 1/6 chord. I'm going to keep the D in the tenor, and the F sharp in the alto leading tone is going to resolve up. And my soprano is on A. It can either step back to B flat where it was, or it can go down to G. The chord underneath it, though, the bass is on B flat down here. So I don't necessarily want to put a B flat in the soprano. It's not wrong. So what I'm going to do is hold off on that note until I get to the next chord and see what links up best with that. Okay, so next we have a 2/6 chord, and we are in G minor. So that's A, C, and E flat. So let's think about that. We need E flat, A, and C. We already have one C. The voice closest, no matter what I put the soprano on, the voice closest to the E flat is the tenor. So I'm going to go ahead and put E flat in the tenor. And then I need an A and then another C probably, or an E flat. So let's think about that. Okay, so, all right, so I see one thing. So this is probably a common thing that people did. If we went to a B flat here and then went to a C there and an A there. Okay, so now we have A, C, C, E flat. That's all of the notes. Okay, does anybody see anything wrong with that? There is a mistake here. Okay, so if I put my soprano on the B flat and take it to C, my bass already went from B flat to C, right? So there are parallel octaves right there. Okay, so to fix that, either the alto would have to go down and the soprano would have to go down, or I think maybe we can take them to a unison A like that. That's probably what I would do. Okay, we lost our FRQ6. Okay, all right, so then let's just check this. So, okay, good. So we have a G to a D. That is a fourth, and a G all the way down to B flat. That's a sixth, and a D down to B flat. That's a third. All of those voices, soprano, I'm sorry, not soprano, alto, bass, and tenor are all stepping up, but none of those are fifths or octaves. So that is good. That is good motion. This is when we go from 1/6 to 2/6. If everybody's moving in the same direction, which is often going to happen, that only works as long as the voices are only fourths and sixths and thirds apart and no fifths or octaves. But that's what we have. And we have our soprano stepping in the opposite direction. So that is perfect. Okay, so we're going to a 1-6-4 chord. And so remember, this is just a G minor chord with a D in the bass. So I can go ahead and let's think about that. Oh, okay. So here's a good technique to just think of. Anytime you go to a unison here, my soprano and my alto are both on an A. They should step in opposite directions afterwards. And I need a G, a B flat, and a D. So luckily, I can step to both of those notes. So, whoa, what just happened? Okay, FRQ6 is back. Okay, I don't know why that happened. All right, B flat in the soprano, G in the alto, and in any 6/4 chord, you have to double the fifth of the chord, which is D. And luckily, our tenor just steps from the E flat down to the D. And again, we have parallel fourths, not fifths, in the alto and tenor, A to G and E flat to D. Actually, that's a tritone to a perfect fourth. That is totally acceptable. Okay, so there's our cadential 1-6-4. And anytime you have a cadential 1-6-4, all of the notes are just going to step down. And these lines are telling you exactly what to do. So which voice is a fourth above D? That's G. So our alto is the one going to F sharp. And again, there's a one-to-one correspondence between the accidentals here and the ones we have to write. So F sharp, or sorry, there's a sharp here, there's an F sharp that we've written, a sharp here, and F sharp that we've written. Okay, the voice that's a sixth above D is B flat, so that is going to go down to A. And the voice that's an octave above D is tenor, so it's going to go down to C. All right, and that's just our final chord now. When we go from a 5/7 to a 1, there are two things you have to do. One is resolve the seventh of the chord. So the chordal seventh is the tenor right there. So we're going to go down to B flat. So scale degree 4 goes down to scale degree 3. And then the leading tone has to step up. Leading tone is in the alto. So we're going to step up to G. Okay, so those things have to happen. The bass leaps 5 to 1, tenor steps 4 to 3, and alto leading tone 7 up to 1. All that leaves is the soprano, and both. Well, what am I doing here? So normally you're just going to go to scale degree 1. When we end at an authentic cadence, most of the voices end up on 1. We have a tripled root and a third. So that is Totally acceptable. It's also fine if we went up to the B flat. You are allowed to have a doubled third. You are allowed to have 2 roots and 2 thirds and no fifth. In this particular instance, there's no way to use the chordal fifth in this chord, because if we have this soprano leap up to D, then we have consecutive fifths with the bass, and that's no good. Okay, so this is really this is the answer I think that the College Board is looking for. The only real choice, I mean, you could have done some different things on the 5 chord, but why leap when you can just move completely by step? And then you could have done some different things here in the soprano, like if we went, not in the soprano, actually, the soprano would have to be that. The alto could go down to the E flat, and then you'd have the tenor and the alto on a unison E flat. If you didn't take the tenor to the E flat and you went to a C here, you might have accidentally done parallel octaves, which is no good. Okay, so I really think this is possibly the best answer here for FRQ5. Okay, let me know if you see any mistakes, anything wrong that I did. I'm going to play this. I hope that you guys can hear it. I tried to share my audio, so here's what it sounds like. Okay, and that's a really exciting soprano part of just alternating B flats and A's the whole time. But you know, sometimes that's right. Okay, so that's FRQ5, the figured bass. Let's move on to FRQ6. So we're in A flat major. I wrote in the Roman numerals. I did not put these bass notes in the right place, so we're going to do that together. We're in A flat. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I made a mistake. Oh yeah, this is a 1-6. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, that's a 1-6. Okay, so again, my 6 must-know chord progressions for the AP exam. Here's one of them right here: 1, 5, 6, 4, 1, 6, and that always features a bass line going do, re, mi. So we're gonna go A flat, B flat, C, just like that. Okay, let's hold off. Here's our 1 applied chord. Let's do all of the other chords before we come back to that. Root position 4, that's D flat, and then a 2, 6, 5. That is a 2 chord in first inversion. So remember, a 2 chord is a B flat minor 7, and if it's in first inversion, we go to the third of the chord on D flat, and then a root position 5. So we'll just put that on E flat. Okay, so the 5, 6, 5 of 4. So again, the way to do this is we pretend like we're in this key. We pretend like we're in the key of D flat. What is a 5, 6, 5 chord in D flat? And that's an A flat dominant 7th chord with the bass on the third of the chord. 6, 5 means first inversion. Okay, and here's a thing to keep in mind. Anytime we have the applied chord in FRQ6 or in the harmonic dictation or in any of the many multiple choice questions, it's going to make a bass line that steps. It's going to do something that makes sense. So look, our bass goes do, re, mi, mi, fa, fa, sol. It's just moving by step. If you do this applied chord and you notice that it doesn't connect by step to either the chord before or after it, you probably wrote the wrong inversion. And most of the time, it will connect by step to both of them. Okay, so here's our chord progression. Here's our bass line. And again, this 1 chord is going to have 1 note that's outside of the key. And the key that we're going to is D flat. And D flat has 5 flats. So A flat major only has 4. This is the chord where we add the extra flat. So whoever's on G in this is going to have a G flat. Okay, so 1, 5, 6, 4 to 1, 6. If you watch my video on this, there is one correct way to do this. There is only one correct way. There are no options that we get to pick here. So let's start with the soprano. So the bass goes do, re, mi, 1, 2, 3. Whoever is on 3 is going to do the opposite, 3, 2, 1. So let's put that in the soprano because the soprano is on C. So we have C, B flat, A flat. Okay, so that's it for the soprano. And then the tenor is going to be the one that goes do, ti, do, like that. And the alto is going to be the one that stays on scale degree 5, just like that. Okay, so this chord progression, 1, 5, 6, 4, 1, 6. This chord right here is a passing 6, 4, and that is only done in one way. Voice exchange between the bass and one other voice, one voice on 5, and one voice stepping do ti do, 1, 7, 1. That's it. Just writes itself. Okay. All right. So we said that this was an A flat dominant 7th chord. So we need A flat, C, E flat, and G flat. So we have both the the soprano and the tenor on A flat here. So one of those is going to hold the A flat, and the other one is going to move to the G flat. And since my bass is rising here, I'm going to not put the G flat in my tenor because that might go a little low. It might be okay, but I think we'll be better off. Oh, there we go again. Okay, we put the G flat in the soprano. Okay, so we have the G flat there. I said the other voice was going to hold the A flat. And then E flat in the alto. Okay, so there we go. We have our A flat, our C, our E flat, and a G flat. And remember, any applied chord, it's either going to have a raised note or a lowered note. If it's a 5 of 4, this is a 5 of 4 with a lowered note. Lowered notes always go in the direction that they're pointing. So flats go down. So I should be able to write the next soprano note without even looking at what the chord is. G flat should go down to F. Is there an F in this chord? Yes, this is a D flat chord. I need a D flat, an F, an A flat, and then probably another D flat. Okay, so common tone tenor, we'll put the A flat there. And I'd like to put the D flat in my alto and just check that. So we have a D flat and a D flat, and they are getting there by opposite directions, E flat to D flat, C up to D flat. Okay, so there's our correctly used applied chord. And next up, our 2, 6, 5, we have B flat, D flat, F, and A flat. And the bass is already on D flat. So we have, this one's kind of funny because you have all of the notes that are in the alto, tenor, and soprano are common tones with this chord, but somebody needs to go to B flat. The bass is not moving, so the bass is not the one on B flat. So who's closest to the B flat? The tenor is the closest, right? The tenor is only a step away. The alto would have to go down a third to get to it, and the soprano would have to leap up a fourth. So I'll pick the person who is closest to that. Okay, so we have B flat, D flat, and I need F and A flat. Okay, so I think in this case, this is this is a case where we're going to have everybody move up like that. Okay, so we're going, we have all the notes, B flat, D flat, F, A flat. Yes, and bass is not moving. Everybody else is moving up, but there is no, let's see, what is this? This is a fourth. That's going to a fifth, and that is not parallel. That's similar. That's fine. And then we have parallel thirds. Yes. Okay. So this works. This is how we can connect 4 to 2, 6. Okay. There's another way to do this. So we'll look at that next. And okay, lastly, what are we doing? Okay, half note. Okay. E flat major chord. So in this 2, 6, 5, we need the 7th of that chord to step down. The 7th is in the soprano. It's the A flat. So that'll go down to G. And it looks, this looks like it kind of connects pretty easily. I hate when MuseScore does that. Okay. Stick with me. What am I trying to do? There we go. Okay. So these guys both go down in parallel thirds to the E flat major chord. Tenor has a common tone. Bass steps up. So that just writes itself again. Okay. Let's listen to FRQ6. Here we go. There we go. So there's a couple other ways to do this. These 3 chords, though, there is only one way. You have to do it this way. The other option is that we could have swapped our alto, not our alto stays there. Tenor and soprano could have swapped here. And then, okay, so let's see one other way to voice this chord. I could have kept the tenor on the A flat, which would then go down to the G. And what would that mean? I take this alto down to the B flat, which would stay on the B flat. And what's left? Stay on the F. Yeah, that would also work. Okay, so kind of 2 different ways to do the 4 to the 2, 6, 5. Everything else is not a lot of options. Okay, let me know if you have any questions on either of those. Okay, so I see one question. What does 864 to 75 sharp mean? Okay, so let's zoom into that. So all this means is that this note, we're in G minor, that's D, that's scale degree 5 in the bass. It means that these numbers are intervals above this note. A 4th above D is G, a 6th above D is B flat, and an octave above D is D. So we have the notes D and B flat and G. That spells a G minor chord, and D is in the bass. And then all of these lines, they just tell you that the note that's an octave is going to go to a 7th above the bass. So what is this? This is the D. So the D is going to go down to C. The 6th is the B flat. The B flat goes down to A. That's 6 to 5. And then 4 to sharp. That means the G, which is a 4th above D, goes down to F sharp. And this always scares people. It looks very scary, but once you understand it, all it is a 1. It's a 1 chord in second inversion, and it goes to a 5/7 chord in root position. The bass stays the same, and all 3 upper voices move down by step. Okay. All right. Okay, any other questions on FRQs 5 or 6? I'm excited to get to 7. And yes, this was a rare case where you could use a deceptive cadence on the 3rd cadence. You could also use an imperfect authentic cadence. But yeah, I think a lot of people put deceptive cadences there. Okay, any other questions on FRQs 5 or 6? All right, I'll come back to that if there are. All right, let's go on to FRQ7. I love FRQ7. If you didn't watch my video on how to crush FRQ7, you should watch it. We're going to follow those steps, and you'll see that that's going to plug in more than half of our notes, and then we just have a few choices to make. Okay, so the 8 steps. The first step is, the first step is the perfect authentic cadence at the end. We're in D major, right? We're in D major, soprano ends E to D, ends 2 to 1. Okay, so that perfect authentic cadence, the directions tell you you have to end with a perfect authentic cadence, and that is, what's going on? There we go. Okay. And that is, okay, there we go. Sorry. 5 to 1, like that. It has to be in root position. It has to be 5/1 with no, there's nothing else. You can't put this on the leading tone. You can't use a second inversion. You can label this a 5/7. It doesn't change. There's no 7th. It doesn't matter if you call it a 5 or a 5/7. Okay, this is not going 3/2/1, which is a pretty common ending. It's going 4/2/1. So with a 4 there, that means this note, this first downbeat of the final chord, is either going to be some inversion of 2 or 4. And that's going to depend on what we put before it. So let's do the other things, and we'll fill that in as one of our later steps. Okay, internal cadences. So what scale degree is the first cadence on? It's on 5. So we're going to put a root position 5 there. And okay, surprisingly, we have a root position, not a root position. We have a scale degree 3 on the third cadence. So I'm gonna do this with an imperfect authentic cadence, not a deceptive cadence, but we'll do that again. We'll show a bunch of answers for this one. I'm gonna stick with the imperfect authentic cadence, so that's gonna be a 1 chord here, which means this right here is gonna be some inversion of 5 or 5/7. So we'll come back to that. Okay, so we have all our fermatas. Now let's do the chromatic note. We have chromatic note right here, sharp scale degree 4, which we're always going to harmonize with a root position 5 of 5. That will always work. Okay, so that's step 2. I'm sorry, that's step 3. The half cadence and the imperfect authentic is step 1. I'm sorry, step 2, step 3. Okay, now we're going to go ahead, and this is something that always works. Every scale degree 3, I'm going to put a root position 1. So I have an F sharp there, I have an F sharp there, I have an F sharp under that fermata already, and an F sharp there. So I'm just going to go ahead and make every single one of these a root position 1 chord. And the reason is that it will usually work, and it's a third. D to F sharp is a third. If I tried to make this a 6 chord, it's going to be a 5th, which might be okay, but then I introduce the possibility of parallel 5ths. If I stick to a 1 chord under all of these, if there's no 5ths, there's no parallel 5th, so I don't even have to worry about it. Okay, and then along those same lines, any scale degree 6, so right here is a scale degree 6, I'm going to put a root position 4 there, and let's put it in that octave. Okay, and then here's another one right here. Okay, and that's for the same reason. We put a root position 4 under every scale degree 6. And that might seem, like I said, that might seem heavy-handed, but trust me, it will work. Okay, then my other favorite thing to do is anytime we have scale degrees 4 to 3 or 7 to 1 in the soprano, I'm going to put the bass on the other one and have tritone, which resolves correctly. So here I have a G to F sharp in the going into the second phrase. So I put a C sharp, and I already have my D there. All right, so C sharp, that's going to be 5, 6, 5, going to 1. And here's another one, G to C sharp right there. So I can do this at my cadence. So that's a 5, 6, 5. And any other G's to F sharp? There's one here, right? G to F sharp, but there's an A on the strong beat. So let's just go ahead and harmonize every quarter note beat. So we're not going to do that there. And then any 7-1. Do we have a 7-1? Yes, we do. We can put that in this sopranos right there. We're going to put G to F sharp in the bass and make that a 5, 4, 2, going to 1, 6. Okay. All right. So again, as you do this, you might start to see some of these choices might make sense for the notes in different octaves. Like I have an F sharp here, and then this G all the way down here. That G would make sense up there. Or I could have moved all 3 of these notes to the lower octave. Just make sure you're not jumping a 7th and you're moving by a step. Okay, and then the other thing is to look for places where there could be voice exchange. So any place I have D to F sharp or F sharp to D in the soprano. And we don't have any of those, right? The F sharps that we do have don't go to D, and the Ds that we do have don't go to F sharp. Okay, so there's no voice exchange. Okay, so following my steps, these are like the plug-in notes that should always work. And so now we have a really nice skeleton here to work with. We only have a few options of notes to fill in. And let's start at the end, actually, okay? Because we have a 1 chord and then something and then our final cadence. And this is scale degree 4. I could put a root position 2 chord there, and that would work. And okay, I can already see. All right, so D to F sharp is a third, E to G is a third, G to B is a third. So whatever we do, we can't actually put a third there unless we change some other note, because you can't have more than 3 quarter beat thirds in a row. Okay, or if we wanted, we could change one of these other notes. Okay, so let's think about how we could do this. We have F sharp, G, and then I need something on this beat. Okay, so there's a few options. If we want to only use thirds and sixths, which, like I said, if you don't use any fifths or octaves, then you don't have to worry about parallel fifths or octaves. If we put an F sharp here, that's when we would end up with too many thirds in a row. Third, 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 third. So we're not going to put F sharp there. We could put a C sharp and A to C sharp. That would be a 5/6 chord. And you can do this. So in the part writing, you're not allowed to leap a tritone. In this question, you are allowed to leap a tritone if it's a diminished fifth that then resolves correctly. So you can leap from 4 to 7 as long as 7 goes up to 1. So we could do this. This works just fine. Okay. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of cool. So we have 1 and we have 4, and we have 2 quarter note beats in between. Can we connect this with stepwise motion? Guess what? We can. We can put a C sharp here under the A and make that a 5/6 chord. And we could put a B here against the D, and we could call that a 6 or a 4/6. Those notes are in both of those chords. So we could go 5/6. I'll call it a 6 chord. It doesn't matter which one you call it. And by the way, this is the leading tone. Normally the leading tone steps back up to do, but you're also allowed to step to scale degree 6 using the progressions 5/6 to 6 or 5/6 to 4/6. Those are all valid progressions. Okay, now we only have one more note. So we have a 4, and I have to get up to this C sharp, and this is an A. Okay, so I think what I would do in this case is make this an A. So this is our 1 octave, A to A, right? But we are getting there. Contrary motion, G to A, B to A. And then after that, they also continue in contrary motion. Okay, this is totally valid. And by the way, this is a root position 5 chord. Okay, this is totally valid. All of our quarter note beats are filled in. Now we try to look for places that we can put in eighth notes. So any leaps of a third in the bass. So we have one right here. I can put a passing tone in there. Here's another one, A to C sharp. I can make that a passing tone. And is that it? Yes, that's it. Okay, let's listen. Let's listen to this whole thing. Here we go. Okay, great. That, oh, okay. There's one mistake. Do you guys see the mistake? This is a minor error, not an egregious error. And you know what? I heard it. I didn't realize it when I wrote it. Okay, so there's one mistake here. It is in the final bar. If we jump from 2 down to 5, we're also leaping in the soprano from 4 to 2. A to E is a fifth. We are leaping in the same direction to a fifth. This is a hidden fifth. And this is why Everybody hates hidden fifths because they're hard to notice. And that's what a hidden fifth is. They are going in the same direction and they're both leaping. So we cannot go from a root position 2 to a root position 5. We're going to have to find something else to do there. But by the way, if you did do this, and like I said, it's a minor error, you can make 3 minor errors and not lose any points. So this would still be a 9 out of 9, which is kind of a funny thing about this question. Okay, so what we're going to do instead of a root position 2 is we're going to have to use scale degree 4 here. We're going to have to make this either a 4 chord or a 2/6. I'll just call it a 4. There's no difference. That's an octave, G to G, scale degree 4 to 4. And instead of leaping a 7, like I said, we're not going to do that. We'll step 4, 5, 1 like that. Okay, and because the fifth is approached by contrary motion, now that is okay. Okay, so yeah, I know. If you look at the previous exams, almost every single previous exam, the soprano ends 3-2-1 or 1-7-1. There are a few that end this way, 4-2-1, and there's even a 6-2-1, I think, that I've seen before. Okay, so yeah, that's a tricky one, and I feel like 4-2-1 is one of the harder ones because, as you just saw, we had hidden fifths that I didn't even notice until I heard. So, okay, what else are we going to do here? So, like I said, there's many correct options for this question. It looks like this might actually be the only correct option for the final bar. Does anybody have any suggestions of things that I could do instead? I have a few thoughts, but I want to see if there's any suggestions. Okay, so someone said that they put a deceptive cadence here, so let's do that. Okay, so we're going to put a 6 chord there, and the good news is that this is going to work because, okay, if you put a deceptive cadence here, B to F sharp, that's a perfect fifth, right? We just have to make sure that we're not approaching that perfect fifth by parallel fifths or hidden fifths or anything like that. But the good news is if you just make this a root position 5-7 going to 6, then we approach that fifth just fine. So yes, you can absolutely have made this a deceptive cadence as long as this was a 5-7 chord before it in root position. And if it was a 5-7 chord in root position, we may as well have just had 2 5s in a row, like, whoops, like that. And if you have 2 5s in a row like that, what should you do? Make it a half note, right? And then we have rhythmic independence there. So let's see what this phrase sounds like with that change. Okay, yeah, let's hear it again. Okay, totally valid. And what's nice about this is almost all contrary motion. This is almost all contrary motion, except you have parallel thirds right there. Everything else is contrary. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, that's also contrary. Yes. Oh, yes. Okay, yes. You do not have to make that a half note. It's just nice to make the rhythm different if you can. So if you do have 2 quarter notes next to each other, if you make it a half note, now the rhythms are different, but that's not going to be like a make or break between anything. 2 quarter notes in a row is totally good. Okay, let's see. There was another. Let's see. Okay, let me just show you something here. I liked going to the C sharp down to the B here because I had a nice contrary motion. I know a lot of people probably did this. Did anybody do this? 1 to 1 6 right here. Okay, and you can totally do that. We could have even done parallel thirds like that. What you have to watch out for if you do this is that this is a third, this is a third, this is a third, this is a third. That's too many thirds in a row if you did exactly what I have here, something like this. So we would have to change these two beats. And here's where it gets tricky, because you cannot, again, the hidden fifths will get you. Okay, so look at this. This is a good thing to go over. This is something that doesn't come up often, but you guys should know. That's a G, that's a D. That's a perfect fifth. The soprano is leaping and the bass is moving by step. That is also a hidden fifth. It is only legal if the soprano is moving by step and the bass is the one leaping. So if these notes were switched by octaves, it would be okay. And the way to remember that is the soprano is the melodic voice that moves by step most of the time. So it's okay for the soprano to step into a fifth. The bass is usually the leapy one that's leaping from chord to chord, and it's okay for the bass to leap to the fifth, but it's not okay if those roles are reversed. So if you did this, there is that hidden fifth right there. Again, that's a minor mistake, so don't be upset if you wrote that. But let's not put that there. But so the only other option under the D, I mean, we could make this a 4/6 chord or a 6 chord, right? But then we have third, third, third. We can't do another third there, right? Yeah, so I don't love yeah, I think root position 4. No, what did I have there before? I'm sorry, what am I saying? Yeah, so that's why I think that the 1/6 is not a great option there, and instead the 5/6 works a little bit better. However, we have a D and a B here. Again, with half notes, you could have made that whole thing a half note like that, as long as you did not do this and have parallel octaves into that A. But the thing that I showed you before with, so check this out. We could have made this a 5/6/5, take away our deceptive cadence, go back to that. Look at this, 2 half notes in a row. It's rare you can use half notes. Okay, so okay, so you know how I told you you can go 4/3 and 7/1, and that's what we have here, right? 5/6/5 to 1, and that was what I had here as well, just from that beat to that beat. If it goes not just 4/3 but 5/4/3, then you can have 2 beats under that 5/6/5, like that. So it's kind of another cool way to use a half note. Okay, all right. Anything else? Okay, there's another way to do this second to last bar. Oh, right. Okay. Okay, so again, if you look for places, if your bass is walking in one direction, try to keep making it go in that same direction. Okay, so if we did 3, 4, 5, we end up on an octave here, right? So that would be a 5 chord. This F sharp could be a 6 or a 1 chord, but watch what happens when we do this. I'm gonna make it a 6. Okay, so now we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 1, and we have a leap of a third there. Let's fill that in. Where did my thing disappear? Lyric. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's listen to this version of the final phrase. Oh, that's nice. Let's listen to that again. Okay, so we get to, okay, we have an octave here. we leave the octave contrary motion to a fifth, and then we leave that fifth in contrary motion to an octave. And then we leave that octave to a fifth again, and end up with an octave. Wow, that's a lot of fifths and octaves. That's a lot of fifths and octaves in a row, but they all actually work because they're all contrary. So this is kind of cool because look at this. This bass line is 100% stepwise until the 5-1 at the end. It's kind of cool. And soprano, the melody they wrote, also mostly stepwise. Okay, so I showed you a few different ways to do this. Does anybody have any questions about things that they did on the test, on this question specifically, and want to know if they are correct? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, I'm going to show you one other thing that you could have done, which is this first fermata. Instead of using a 5 of 5, what's kind of cool is anytime you go 3 sharp 4 5 like this, the bass can move in contrary motion using a 5 4 3. How do I write this? 5 4 3. Oh, okay. Well, there it is, really big. Yeah. Okay, a 5 4 3 of 5 like that. And the reason you can do this is 4 3, the inversion 4 3 is normally just going to step down to the root of the next chord. And what's neat about this is now we can make this a passing tone. Like that. Okay, so let's listen to this phrase. So you can approach that A with stepwise contrary motion. This B to G sharp, that's a sixth. Okay, so a 5 4 3 of 5. That's a nice stepwise way to do the chromatic cadence most of the time if it goes 3 sharp 4 5, which is normally what it does. So I like to do that when I can. But the root position 5 of 5 will always work. It's just a little bit jumpier, but it's not wrong. Okay, let's put that back. Nope, not going to do it. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any other questions for me about the exam, about FRQs 5, 6, or 7? There we go. Okay, let me know in the comments. Comment on my other videos if you have any questions. And like I said, if people want, maybe next week I could do the harmonic and the melodic dictation questions. They don't release the answers for those. They only release the recordings. They release them eventually. They haven't released them yet. So what I could do is I could do a live stream where I actually just listen to it and do it for you live. I haven't listened to them yet, so I could do them for you, show you my process, and see how that goes. You'll just have to trust me that the answers are correct since we don't have the answers yet. But that is something that we could do. Oh, lightning adventures. I'm sorry that you don't think that you did well. You may not have done as poorly as you thought. You never know. Did you end with a perfect authentic cadence? If you ended with a perfect authentic cadence, you're going to get a few points. This is the hardest question, and we're just trying to get as many points as possible. The way they grade this question is really kind of wild. So as long as you got a few key notes in the right places. Okay, so if you did, okay, so I think you're saying that you did a 16451. As long as you did root position 5-1 on the last two chords, you'll get credit for that cadence. And even if the 164 is not correct. So you still got some points there. What about the other cadences? Did you make the first cadence a half cadence and the second to last one a deceptive or an imperfect authentic. If you did those, again, the cadences are worth, like, I think if you get the cadences right, they're all worth 1 point just in and of themselves. So you would have gotten 3 points if you got the cadences right. Even if you got the 164, if you put the 164 and that's wrong, you still get credit for the 2 notes that are actually part of the cadence. Got the cadence, but I don't know. Oh no, yeah. So this, okay. So the cadence is a 1 chord or a 6 chord here, and then some inversion of 5 that doesn't make any errors with the chord leading into it. So this could have been a root position 5-7 to 1. It could be a 5-6-5 to 1, like that. Technically, there's some universe in which you could have done. Yeah, this would have been fine. 1-6-4, 5-6-4, 1. That would have been fine too. If this was a deceptive cadence, put a 6 chord there. I think the only deceptive cadence that works is a 5-7 to 1, like that. Okay, yeah. So there's lots of different options for this cadence because the half cadence, any half cadence, I'm sorry, this isn't a half cadence. Any non-perfect authentic cadence can use inversions going into it. So you can have different inversions of 5 as long as it's some dominant chord going to some 1 chord. Then a 5 on that one. Can that be? Okay, so wait. Hold on. What are we talking about here? So I think I did a 5 on that one into a 4. Okay, I'm not sure exactly where we're talking about lightning adventures. Are we talking about this? Are we talking about this bar? Are we talking about the fermata and the bar before, or the beat before it? So this cadence is 5-4-3 in the soprano. Because the fermata is on 3, the only options are for that chord to be a 1 or a 6. It can't be a half cadence in this case. Okay, so the way that the FRQs are weighted, each dictation is 10% of the FRQs, of the written FRQs. So melodic dictation 1 and 2 are each worth 10%. Harmonic dictation 1 and 2, which is FRQs 3 and 4, each worth 10%. So that's 40%. And then the Roman numerals is worth 10. So that's 50 total so far. And then 15% for the figured bass, because they think the figured bass is harder than the Roman numerals. And then 25% for the FRQ7, the harmonization. So the dictations, each dictation individually is not worth that much. The composition is really the biggest chunk. And it's only 9 points, which means there's sort of a big difference between each of the grades there, I guess. But yeah, the harmonic dictation, I heard that the second one was the one that everybody thought was hard. The second one is usually the harder one. There's a 5 of something in it. But yeah, they're always weighted the same way. Okay, what else? Does the cadence matter more than the 2 measures without cadences? Yes. So the cadence. Okay. So, all right. Phrase number 2. So just this bar, and actually just these 3 notes, because this is part of the next phrase. Just these 3 notes. These 3 notes altogether are worth 2 points. And if you get the cadence correct, it's worth 1 point. And then whatever's left, you can earn points off if you don't connect things the right way. So it's like a weird weighting system where each minor error is half a point and each major error is a point. And then however many errors there are rates your baseline or your Roman numerals as either good or fair or poor. And there's like a whole chart for how they're all labeled. Actually, let me see if I can be able to bring that up. I can, yeah. Let me bring that up real quick. Okay, here it is. Here's the scoring guidelines. Okay. Right. So if you have one egregious error up to also another error, another minor error, then it's good. If you have 2 egregious errors, 4 to 5 minor errors, it's fair. And then 3 egregious or 6 minor. So basically a minor is like half an egregious error, right? So that's how the scoring system works. And then if you got a good baseline and a good Roman numeral line, then it's a 3. And so they actually grade the Roman numerals and the notes that you wrote independent of each other because they're actually giving you the benefit of the doubt and accounting for possible mismatches. Like if you wrote an F sharp and you wrote a 1 chord, but you meant a 1/6, right? You'll get a different score for your Roman numeral score versus your baseline. So that's sort of why they do this. Okay, so going back to this again, so this whole thing is worth 2 points. This whole thing is worth 3, and you get a full point by just getting the cadence correct, and you get a full point by just getting the cadence correct there. So you can lose points. It's sort of like, are you losing points? You're not gaining them, right? So have you lost enough points to get you a 1 point or a 2 point deduction on the rest of the bar? That's sort of how this is graded, which is kind of strange. Okay, can you go over the 5 of 5 into root 5? Yeah, so this is I think what most people probably wrote. Root position 5 of 5, 2 of 5 chord, right? We're in the key of D major. That 5 chord is an A. This G sharp is outside of the key. It's not in the key of D. So in order to account for that, we have to call it by a different name, and that name is the 5 chord of scale degree, or of the 5 chord, the key that this is. So this is A major. So if we were in the key of A major, the 5 chord would be E with a G sharp in it. So you're not allowed to call this a 2 chord. You can't call it a major 2 chord. If you wrote an E and you called it a 2 chord, I forget how the scoring guidelines handle that, but the E is the best note that goes here. B is the other one that works. Pretty much anything else isn't going to work there. Just B or E. Okay. All right. Okay. Any other questions on FRQs 5, 6, or 7 from the exam? If there are, let me know in the chat. Like I said, I'm going to do a live stream doing just the dictations sometime, maybe next week if people want me to do that. Were there any multiple choice vocabulary words that you didn't know? Let me know in the comments. I can sort of answer what those are, but I don't have access to the multiple choice questions. They don't release those. They never release those. So the only people who get to see them are those of you who took the test. So I will never see them. Okay, so yeah. Okay, as we wrap up here, you know, if you've watched some of my videos and you're done with AP, you're not taking AP theory anymore. If you're going to college for music and you're going to take music classes, stay with me, and I'm going to have some videos on some of the things that you're going to cover in your classes in college. So the material of AP theory covers diatonic chords and the applied chords, the secondary dominants. That is usually covered in your first 2 semesters of college music theory courses. And then beyond that, you learn things like the Neapolitan chord, modal mixture, which is where if you're in a major key, you can sort of borrow chords from the parallel minor. So like a minor 4 chord and flat 6 chords and flat 7 chords. And the augmented 6 chords. So all of those together, plus the applied chords, that's what's called chromatic harmony. And that's how you deal with notes that are outside of the key signature, but still are functioning within the key. And then there's a lot of stuff beyond that. There's contemporary uses of modal harmony, which is different than Renaissance modal harmony, and other chromatics, and then atonality and impressionism and everything that Debussy did, which is interesting and unique. So let me know if there's anything with music theory that you want me to cover. Maybe there's, you know, some type of harmony you really like, or composer that you really like, or something that some piece did that you want to know how it works. I can take a look at it and maybe make a video about it if it's really cool. So yeah, stay with me. Let me know what you want to hear. I'm going to start releasing videos on advanced topics. So I'm going to do modal mixture first, which is a really cool effect that I like a lot. So we're going to do that. I'm also going to talk a lot about modes eventually. I love modal harmony, and I don't think people talk enough about it. They sort of say, "Hey, here are the modes. Go figure them out." But I'll show you exactly how to use them because I love them. I think they're really cool. They sound familiar, but they're also different than tonal harmony. So they're a little less expected. And counterpoint. I love counterpoint. I'm going to do a bunch of videos just about counterpoint. And this is something that you will study in college. So on the AP test, the harmonization question. So this whole thing that we're doing right here, this is counterpoint. All those rules about no parallel fifths and hidden fifths and all those things, they come from counterpoint. But counterpoint is actually much more complicated. There's a lot more to it. And when you learn it in college, most colleges teach you Renaissance counterpoint, which is really cool. But if you've never heard Renaissance music, it's going to be a little hard to learn because you suddenly have to learn what Renaissance music is. And it's sort of similar and totally different than common practice period music. So in my counterpoint series, I will help you be able to do that, but I'll also show you how to apply counterpoint to any other genre of music because I think it's so cool. Counterpoint is how you write multiple melodies at once. And what's neat about it is it's kind of mathematical and hidden in the music, and you can sort of unlock it. And once you do it, you can sort of write music that just magically sounds, really complicated and cool, but like it fits together naturally as well. It's a really cool topic that I love. So, all right, I think that's about all I'm going to do today. Let me know if there's any other things you want me to cover. If you are watching this and you haven't taken the AP Music Theory exam because you are taking the makeup exam on Thursday, watch the rest of my videos, especially the AP specific ones, and let me know if you have any questions. I think there's a lot of people taking the makeup exam. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Yes, listen to more Renaissance music.